Well, let's get started, everybody. You taking off? Okay. Um, Welcome everybody that's online here, virtual. And we'll get started in today's public board meeting, April 26th. It's 9 a.m., I believe. And we'll call the meeting to order. And I'll ask Trish to do our land acknowledgement, please.
Sturgeon Public Schools respectfully acknowledges that we teach, learn, and grow together on Treaty 6 territory and homeland of the Métis. We honor and respect the history, languages, ceremonies, and cultures of the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples who have called this land home for countless generations. We recognize the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and Inuit for their care, love, and stewardship of this place. We are grateful for those who share their knowledge with us and help to foster a respectful relationship with all of our relatives on this land. We are committed to understanding the harms done in the name of education and continuing to learn to honor the true spirit of Treaty 6 as a promise of friendship, collaboration, and a peaceful alliance.
Thank you. Consideration of today's agenda. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? We have one, and it'll be under presentations, and it's Sturgeon Compson High School drumline presentation. Okay. Anything else? I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Cindy, all those in favor? Unanimous? Okay. Appointments. There's no appointments this morning. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of March 22nd, 2023. I have a motion to accept them as presented. Tasha, all those in favor? Thank you. Presentations. Sturgeon Compson High School drumline presentation. Sean.
Yeah, I will let, do you want to get the link going and I will just speak what's about to happen. So as the board will recall, we were very excited and we wanted to bring the drum line to the board. But as you know, the drum line is quite loud. And so I really want to say a shout out to Mr. Swenson, because with the Sturgeon Night of Music and how busy they've been, we did ask him if it was possible to put together a video to showcase the drum line, and he did so, and he got it to us over the weekend. And so it's our pleasure to share this with you. And when it warms up, then maybe we will enjoy them outside. But we felt that this might be a little bit easier to listen to, that coming into the boardroom might be a little bit too loud.
Because it's special when you have a good teacher like that. Any questions, anything else on that? Okay, everybody okay? Oops, go ahead, Stacy.
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. Just curious, is that going to be included in the meeting minutes that are posted on our YouTube or website?
Yes, and also we will be uploading this video to the website. However, Mr. Swenson did ask. We loved his message at the end, but because we did task him over the weekend that he added it, he might edit out a little bit at the end, but we will let him decide on the final version, or it might just go on the website because we love it. But yes, it'll be on there. It'll be for sure be in the minutes that it is there, and the link will be on the website for people to go and check out.
Great. Anything else? Thank you, everybody. 7.1, Education Planning Assurance Report. Jonathan, or Shauna, who's going? Jonathan?
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. For your information, but I am trying to get it on my computer. Apologize, just coming back from arranging that video. Thank you. So provided for your information is an insight into some of the things that the education planning team has been taking on over the last few months. They will be returning to this boardroom at some future time to speak directly to it in the same way that we've seen and heard from Learning Services. But we had wanted to provide you some of this information just for you to understand and share and talk about in any of your school council meetings. This is organized around 3 domains, the 3 domains that they work most directly to. Of course, in education, we all work across the domains for student success, but you can see that we are searching for assurance, searching and planning and building for assurance with student achievement. That's the first domain. The second one is to support teachers and strong leadership. And the third domain is to ensure that all students have the right learning supports as well. They work with Learning Services in that, and specific here around welcoming, safe and caring schools. First part, I'm not going to go through all the detail. It's here for your consideration, but I hope you see that we're working very hard to support new curriculum. New curriculum this year, K-3 math and language arts instruction, and K-6 phys ed and wellness. And you'll already see that we're working toward curriculum implementation next year, which will add science, K-3, and we'll move math and language arts instruction 4 and 6. So we'll be fully new curriculum, K-6 in math and language arts, and phys ed and wellness, and we'll be K-3 in science curriculum. So here are some of the self-select days, some of the call-in days, some of the work. One of the things that the group did quite a bit of work on this year for our teachers is the curation of supportive resources. Alberta Ed has a site and is doing some of that work, but our teachers have asked for more support in that area, and that's one look, there's lots of significant tasks, but it's one of the focus areas that the group has put quite a bit of effort into. I move off. Oh, just before I leave there, I should talk a bit about intervention. The way intervention has looked this year for us is for our younger kids in 1 to 3. We worked on training, again, our learning coaches. They've become quite a valuable person in our building that is growing in instructional leadership and working in classrooms with other teachers to ensure teachers understand some of these supported research-based approaches to helping students build reading understanding and early numeracy skills, math sense, and those kinds of things. And so 1 to 3, the learning coaches had specific training in, and then they went into classes to help set up, pull out instruction within the class. It's like doing guided reading, it's guided math, guided reading. It's in class, but in small groups. But then the grade 4s, the schools wanted to do actually a little bit more direct intervention. And so we hired a couple of intervention teachers to do almost all the division. But if you're wondering why Oak Park and Guthrie are not listed there, it's because they actually had people in their building that they could build more time into that could do the intervention work. So they had the people in the building that had took on a bit more time to do intervention. The rest of the division had access to continue. It's right now. Those teachers have a schedule and are going into the schools to do intervention, but that's just for grade 4. The support that this group provides for our teachers directly and leadership, while the new curriculum is a lot of support direct for teachers, but we often talk about the work that they've done to develop our learning coaches so that in every one of our schools, we have these people now, second year in their role or third. They truly are getting understanding what it is to be a coach, what it is to be a partner with another teacher, and that's been a lot of the focus with their development. This team also plans our 2 division PD days. So that's the day that we had in August and then the day that we just had. And they're a full day with keynote speakers, as you see here, but then also multiple sessions based on what teachers have said they'd like to see. They work with partner groups like ERLC to bring in speakers and other support people that help us put on excellent learning for our teachers, but that's a big broad part. And then if you look at sort of the cohort structures that this group also leads out, right? We'll see the beginning teachers. They work in partnership with a principal to do SALT. We also have a vice principal cohort, and they design the core of our principal professional learning that happens every Wednesday as well. So you can see sort of a continuum of leadership development that this group organizes. Should mention Ed Technology. This is the first year that we've had someone in central office who wakes up every morning thinking about our education side of the technology. And so they're focused this year on supporting our teachers with a view to, of course, the teachers support the kids with better use of technology. We've seen, based on teacher feedback, please let's talk about, you know, even Power School, how to make sure our Power School is effective and we can use that for our kids. But this Ed Tech has also worked with what do you call that? Media literacy. Like they actually, you know, you would have seen, we've shared with you before some of the activities we asked parents to think about and activities we gave to our teachers. This team really provided that guidance and was alongside. They're also working to develop a more cohesive STEAM approach around our division. We have great STEAM education in our schools. And we want to make sure that the great education that's happening in one school is aligned with another so that we can, you know, have good synergy and maybe some competitions and that kind of stuff. So that's this team as well. But they've also been working with technology, and that'll come up actually in the tech report, to really take a look at what is in our classrooms. For example, they did quite a bit of work, and they're continuing in this work with iPads. That's an area that hadn't been given a lot of attention, and they're working to say, well, what applications are best that we could all use in grade 2 and that kind of thing. The last part I would highlight here is the team works with Indigenous education, both for the success of Indigenous students and also for all schools to be, you know, inclusive and to celebrate Indigenous culture. This team leads out our you know, our Métis coach that goes into schools, works directly with kids, but also with staff to understand more of Métis history and also Métis approach in education. They lead out a call to action cohort, which is a representative. Some schools have managed to get 2 in there, but it's supposed to be 1 representative per school. And they come out and have direct, you know, experience often with our neighbors or with other cultural leaders so that they can, you know, better understand and make connections so that they can host those leaders within our schools and ensure that we're doing those types of activities. So I know that was a bit long-winded, but it is a 5-page report. I just wanted to shout out a bit for the team. They've done a lot of work here. Admin's prepared to take questions.
Stacy.
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. Just a couple of comments. First, the intervention supports. I really appreciate seeing what was said in the boardroom. We had discussed how to use this grant best and how we want to build capacity in our schools and our intent at the board level. I feel like it's coming to fruition in our classrooms, and I really appreciate you bringing that information back and connecting it to what we're doing in the boardroom to really understand how these decisions affect things in the classroom. And also, I appreciate, I've been with the Edwin Parr, I've been talking to a lot of first-year teachers and asking them some really in-depth questions about how they work in their classrooms with complex needs and that kind of thing. And I appreciate the technology becoming uniform within all our schools to make sure that everyone has access to technology, because it is becoming, or I'm learning how important it is to level the playing field in the classroom, and we're really adapting to the needs of all our kids. But if some schools don't have access to it, or we're not connecting those resources, it can, fragment what's going on in our division. So I appreciate as well that central approach to technology. Thank you for sharing.
Anything else? Irene?
Irene Gibbons, Ward 7. It's not a question, it's a comment. I just wanted to say, well, thank you. And it's nice to see the depth and the breadth of the PD that's being provided. We see the calendar every year. We know that there's PD days. It's nice to see the support that is being offered to the teachers, especially, new curriculum. That's huge. Yet you're not missing the other things that are a need. So thank you.
Asha?
Asha Otway McClay, Ward 6. I'm really sorry, Jonathan, if I missed this, but you keep referring to the group. So when you're talking about, PD planning and the, collaborative nature of it, who's part of the team? Who's part of the group that contributes?
Sorry, Jonathan.
Thank you for the question. So really, the team goes beyond who I'm going to mention, but the team that is in central office is led out by our Director of Education Planning, which is Shannon Campbell-Requa. And then within her immediate team, we've got the Coordinator of Curriculum and Instruction, which is Nicole Farwell. We've got the Indigenous Lead, which is Taryn Donald, and we have the Technology Lead, which is Courtney Kerr. As I said, they're really a team approach. So they also would say, well, but all our learning coaches, we work together, but those are the people that the team is here.
Thank you. I was just wondering, like, how far does the collaboration go out from this point? So that's helpful. Thanks.
Great. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Jonathan. This is really good. It's just showing progress and it's heading in it, like Stacy said, heading in a great direction of what we plan in here. So that's really good. Thank you. 7.2 modular classroom update. Liliana.
Liliana Levacont, Associate Superintendent Corporate Services. In this item, we are bringing the updates that we received from the government on December 16, 2022. We have applied to the government for our modular needs, in accordance with the 3-year capital plan. In that application, we put forward a request for the demolition and restoration of 2 modulars at Redwater, 2 modulars at Landing Trail, and the addition of 2 new modulars at Nemeo School. The government has approved us for the demolition of the 2 modulars at Redwater, which were in very poor condition, and they were decommissioned and isolated so we can avoid cross-contamination. Also, the demolition of the 2 modulars and the restoration of the site at Landing Trail. Those 2 modulars were installed in 1977, and there were many complaints related to health generated by the condition of those mods. And both those demolitions at the 2 schools will increase our utilization, aligning us better with what's required by the government. However, the 2 modulars for the Nemeo school were not approved, so we did not receive the 2 mods at Nemeo. Administration is prepared to answer questions.
Question, Stacy?
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. With not getting approved for the ones at Nemeo School, are we still on plan? Are we functional without the two modulars? You can just clarify going forward.
Liliana.
With the decline of the two modulars at Namel School, we are tight for space there, although we're not surpassing the 100% utilization as required by the government. We're still tight for space due to the classroom disposition. And we had to reduce the daycare space. So we had 2 classrooms dedicated to daycare and out of school. So the Neo Mighty Learners will move out the daycare space or the preschooler class, and will continue to offer out of school from the other classroom. In addition to that, the Neo Mighty Learners will start opening programs at Guthrie. So we anticipate to have 2 classrooms in there dedicated to out of school and preschool care.
Irene.
Irene Gibbons, Ward 7. I just wanted to maybe see if there was an incorrect date for the Lanning Trail modulars of 1977, because the school didn't open till 82. So yeah, and maybe they were built in 77 and installed, but I'm just wondering if you could come back with clarification on that.
Liliana.
Administration will take this under advisement and look into the years. Thank you for bringing it up.
Okay, thank you. 7.3, pre-planning grant update. Liliana.
Liliana Lavecont, Associate Superintendent Corporate Services. So for your information is included the letter that we received from Alberta Education that approved our pre-planning process, funding for the process that we have identified back in April of 2022. We have identified we have complex situations and multiple constraints within our division in terms of moving forward with the capital planning. So in collaboration with Alberta Education, we have identified a process to move forward with a value scoping exercise to bring forward community and stakeholders of interest. So we can have a collaborative discussion on how to move forward in that process, and in a collaboration with in the process of developing a 3-year capital plan. Gibbons area was our priority number 1 solution. And then we developed the next 2 top priorities. We were informed informally at that time that our value scoping funding exercise was approved. However, we just received the funding this year, which is perfect. It's aligning with the timing of the expenses. And this is considered part of the pre-planning phase. As you may recall from the previous meeting, the government now has different phases that are getting approved. We don't have to follow all 4 phases. However, this puts us in a pre-planning phase for the given solution. Administration is prepared to answer any questions.
Questions? Thank you, Liliana. Communications report 7.4. Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. For your information is this month's communication report. In this report, we've captured a few of the things that communication is focused on. Reminder to anyone who hasn't yet, please subscribe to our newsletter. It tries to highlight some of the great things that are going on around our division. In this one, we highlighted Month of the Military Child, our CASA Health mental classrooms, the Susie Casey seminar for parents, and the carnival and some other updates. If I go through the report, again, you can see we had an amazing response to the summer school I was gonna say push, that's not quite the right terming, but we came out there and said, hey, come to us for summer school. And we had year over year, 157.5% increase. So if you look at, the dip here, we had 73 enrolled and, now we have 188. So we're on track for a really robust summer school program, which we believe is supportive for our students that are either seeking to take some credits so that they can take other options during the year. That often happens with comm and physical education, or it's an opportunity to, either redo a course or other ways to redo ed courses that you've done before. Anyways, that's two reasons to take summer school. As you go on, is still till the end of the month of the military child. And we did across the division focus on Teal Up Day. There's a few videos here that highlight some of the language around that. Then some of the promotions that we did specific to schools. We're celebrating the Carnival we're going to have in Legal. The way we're trying to promote Guthrie on here, we designed a sign, and then we also had an open house at Sturgeon Heights that we did some sign and promotion work for. As shared in the newsletter, we did promote an evening with Susie Casey for parents and guardians. I heard that it was well attended. I wasn't able to be there. There might have been some trustees there, so you probably have better direct knowledge from me, but I heard that it was a welcome event and well attended. Is that coming? Yeah, sorry. This is an excellent thing, this transition to adulthood fair that we're hosting, just for parents to be aware of. I just want to make sure to get that word out there, maybe in school councils, I think, because it really talks about all the supports for some of our young people that need these supports for sure as they move out of a school system. K-12 is actually really a supportive place. I know it's sometimes we need more supports, we do, and all those things, but I just want to encourage trustees to take that message into their councils, because families that have children that need extra support sometimes struggle with that. Not in K, we've graduated, we're out of grade 12, and who now helps us? So please consider that. And then last, we promoted the, well, not last, we're going to show all the different places we've been highlighted in the news, but just also that we promoted some of the excellent collaboration that's happening with us and Gibbons. And then just, if you look at this list, quite a few times we've been mentioned in the news. So that's also, if you've missed some of those, it's great to just click in and see what conversation is out there about us. Administration is prepared to take questions. Oh,
I would just like to add one thing, because Mr. Shute did send me an email on the day after their open house. And there, if you notice, there was a big media push to showcase some of the new academies that Sturgeon Heights is bringing on. And they had, I think, about 350 people come through the doors for that open house. And so it just goes to show, when you get the word out there and shout from the rooftops, the positive things. So he purposely sent me an email to say that it was outstanding. And also for the transition to adulthood fair, I'll ensure that that is the notes that you have to take forward. And we have been pushing that quite a bit, but it'll be in your notes so that you can speak to your school council, so that we encourage our families that are looking for those supports to attend.
Great. Trish?
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4. A question about the feedback survey for the parents and guardians. I'm looking forward to hearing the results of that. Any idea when we will hear about that?
Jonathan?
I would just share at this time that the ed planning group that I was just celebrating with you is working on the results, and we'll bring that to you when we can.
Tasha?
Tasha Oatway McClay, Ward 6. I just wanted to again mention how happy, pleased, surprisingly happy that I am with the communications reports and the work that the communications director has been doing. I can't recall a time in my history with Sturgeon School Division where I have seen representation in so many places. And we used to be a happy little sleepy school division, and now we're like in the news. So I really want to say how pleased I am. I really had reservations about this position and putting so much money into it, but it has paid dividends. And I look forward to more progress, more success. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy, did you still have something?
I was just gonna mention that we are also, Online has been pushing our Sturgeon Strides program as well. I've seen it pop up on social media a couple of times. So there is also traction coming for that without even us taking the lead on it from Central. So that's great.
Even in the free press, we're starting to get in there quite a bit, so really good. Okay. 7.5 monthly financial report. Liliana.
Liliana Bacon, Associate Superintendent Corporate Services. So included in your package is the monthly financial report for the month ending March 2023. At the end of this month, we had a deficit of 1.15 million, which is tracking along the line with what we have budgeted. Our unbudgeted grants totaling is trending up as the government is releasing more grants. And in that area, we currently have 557,000 unspent. We don't anticipate to spend the entire amount there. We are allowed to carry forward some of those funds to next year. So at the end of the year, we will defer any amounts that will not be spent. So any positive balance surplus is not going to affect our bottom line for 2023 year end. So our deficit is mainly explained by the additional grants that we've received, the higher than budgeted interest is on our deposit accounts by 447,000 to date, and climbing. Timing of certain revenues and expenses such as fee collection, insurance, and utilities. The division also expensed a portion of the money on capital equipment. So that's taking operating dollars and putting them on capital investments, and higher than budgeted amortization for unsupported capital assets. So these are assets that are funded through capital reserves or operating funds. So that amortization is coming back to us as an expense. So when excluding the above noted temporary surplus, the division would have had a deficit of 2.49 million as opposed to a deficit of 1.36 million as planned as of March 31st. I'm cautioning you not to worry about it. We did include there an investment in capital assets, including some maintenance of 1 point. So we have to go back to the report. Nearly $1 million, and that amount is basically offsetting the surplus that we had at the end of fiscal year 21-22. The target for the division is to meet what the government approved us to go and use from the unrestricted surplus. So going back to the report on the pre-K to 12, revenues are higher than budgeted by 1.03 million, mainly due to ATA salary settlement top-up, 315,000, the student enrollment growth of 138,000, the timing of fee collection, which is dwindling towards the year end, it's gonna lose that impact. Higher than anticipated donations by 167,000, and most of those are related to graduations, and fundraising revenues of 62,000. There were a few other smaller items in that number. Expenses are higher than budgeted by 865,000. That's simply based on a proration of months to date out of the whole year. And mainly due to the accelerated timing of some of the instructional expenses over the 10 months, with July and August being a bit slower. So again, we anticipate that variance will dissipate. And of course, the ET salary settlements, so it's funded and expensed, resulting in a net zero impact in that area. For centralized instructional services, which are listed at the beginning of the memo, revenues are higher than budgeted by 437,000. Again, due to the timing of additional Indigenous students funding for learning services, a portion of the interest revenue, which was allocated to support some expenses in this area, totaling 148,000. While expenses are slightly higher due to learning services expenses taking place over the first 10 months. So an accelerated spending, which we anticipate to track closer to what's budgeted towards the year end. And also the capitalization on items such as the loft boards that we implemented the prior year, that resulted into the higher surplus we had last year, but now affecting us into the amortization expense, which we anticipate a total of 263,000 this year. For operations and maintenance, revenues includes additional unbudgeted Alberta education funding of 85,000 to cover the rent for Legal Public School and the settlement from the liquidation of assets from ASB, which was a hold insurance of 95,000. Expenses are higher than budgeted by a little bit over $1 million due to Sturgeon opposite high school flooding. We received the money from the insurance right before our fiscal year end, and then we paid our contractors that dealt with the flood right after the year end. So that resulted in a misalignment of 176,000. Also, the snow clearing costs are now adding up to 197,000 more than what we budgeted. And we also had a loss on disposal of old surveillance equipment that resulted in 255,000. That will permanently affect our bottom line, but again, we anticipate we will meet the approved balance as outlined by the minister. And we also have higher than budgeted salaries and benefits of 120,000. All anticipated to affect the year-end deficit. Utilities costs are higher during the winter season, so we anticipate again an accelerated expense in there. And also the timing of insurance. We paid our insurance bills in December in a one-time payment. So that affects how we recognize the expenses over the 12 months. So those two, utilities and insurance, amount to a timing variance of 250,000. Under transportation services, the revenues are higher than budgeted due to transportation fees being collected at the beginning of the year mostly, and also receiving the fuel subsidy funding from the government. And expenses are higher than budgeted, mainly due to the fuel subsidies. So again, and that's zero, what we paid out. And again, the contractor costs being accelerated over the first 10 months of the year, with lower costs happening during the summer months. We anticipate that we also have a variance due to the 2 routes that were discontinued in the fall or late summer. And we've added now two new routes to the division that we hope that they will continue. System administration revenues higher than budgeted due to the additional interest. Again, right now we have 319,000. Those funds will be allocated to the priorities within the division, and an unbudgeted 40,000 for ASB property equity. So remember, we put a portion in facilities and a portion in administration.
as this is how our insurance costs are being distributed. External services are lower than budgeted due to less secondments, and that also affects our expenses. And under non-budgeted additional grants that were received later in the year, we're putting all efforts to spend as much as we can this year. Whatever we don't spend is going to be deferred to next year. And also capital investments of $456,000 will reduce the overall unrestricted surplus. So again, reminding everybody that we have to stick to what the minister approved us to access from an unrestricted surplus. And that's not only made out of our projected deficit, but also investment in capital and amortization expenses and stuff. Administration is prepared to answer any questions that you may have.
Gotcha.
Tasha Otway McClay, Ward 6. If we could just pop back up into operations and maintenance. Just wondering if you could expand on the contributing factors to the $197,000 deficit in the snow clearing budget. It wasn't even a particularly bad winter, so I'm kind of freaked out about this. Like, how are we going to address it going forward?
Yeah.
Liliana Levacon, Associate Superintendent Corporate Services. So we have budgeted $40,000 for snow removal. However, the contractor cost is nearing $250,000. And that's due to the contractors arrangements that we have with our third parties. And we only pay them as they come and do the services, and we have standards in place. And a significant cost of the snow removal is also the sweeping of the sidewalks. That's costing us approximately $2,600 per school per month. And that's an additional cost that we had to implement as we did not have enough resources internally to support that function.
Just have a follow-up on that. Okay, so just for my clarity, we budgeted 40, then we changed the plan and brought in third-party contractors, which has quadrupled the cost. So what are we doing going forward? Are we going to budget a different way for next year, or?
Yeah.
So next year, we budgeted similarly to what we incurred this year. So the budget will be larger to accommodate the needs.
Cindy?
Cindy Briggs, Ward 2. And Tasha, to answer your question, because I'm on operations and maintenance, previous years, there wasn't any contractors put in place. And so, as you know, a couple of years ago, we were left with no contractors at many of our schools for snow removal. So that's why we are over budget.
Tasha?
Thanks, Cindy. I do recall that being an issue. I just want to make sure we're going to budget appropriately going forward, because this doesn't look particularly fiscally responsible at the moment. So just going forward more so than anything.
And it's explainable, so it's good. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Monthly IT report, 7.6. Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. Provided for your information is our monthly IT report. As I kind of highlighted ahead of time, looking at the ed planning part, IT has also been diving into iPads. They've been in our schools, but not as effectively managed as they could be. And so a big part of the work in the last 2 months has been how many iPads, where are the iPads, how old are the iPads? And so They now have a plan, provided. Part of the plan is definitely budget approval. So, it's a little hopeful at this point. But if you look down, like if I could share this, you look into the Chromebook fleet and you can see we've obviously been putting in a lot of Chromebooks because when you go 3 or 4 years out, you'll see a replacement of a lot of Chromebooks. That's a reflection of the Chromebooks we've been putting in today. Similar to some of the computer fleet, we've almost finished all of our evergreening. I think across schools, there's still a bit more. These are devices, usually teacher devices, but these are staff devices. And then they'll be evergreen again. You'll see starting in 2024. That's when those 3-year cycles. But if you look at the iPad fleet, which is a new addition to this report, because we now have that data, you can see that next year we are hoping to replace quite a few. Now that is a hopeful. If we can't, we'll work with that. We'll look at other ways to meet this. But this is a reflection. I just want to share that we have that many very, very old, unsupported, like unsupported by Apple OS updates, unsupported by if we're trying to put new apps on there, that kind of unsupported. So they work as pieces of glass, but they don't work as really good educational tools. So admin is prepared to take any questions on this report.
Cindy.
This is just a question. I know our division hasn't been very supportive of iPads in the past because they're more individualized. Is it better that we go with iPads or we go with tablets? What is the benefit of iPads over tablets?
I would say our division in certain schools have been very supportive of iPads. This is now how do we look at consistently approaching certain letter tracing apps as you learn how to that fine motor skill with your hand, or some of the excellent early education apps that are actually on iPads for layers of reading, learning, decoding skills. So as we look at the other devices, like there's Amazon Fire tablets that are cheaper, that are Android devices or whatnot, there is still stronger and better support for educational experiences on the iPad platform. So the vast majority of these iPads, vast majority, are in early grades. This is when students are more tactile, that struggle a bit more with computer, like keyboard dexterity, and that iPads can log in a bit more efficiently and quickly. And you can do, as I mentioned, some of those tracing activities. And it's not just tracing activity, but what I mean is it's that interface that they can use. The other part where they are also used, but in way less numbers, would be in some of our STEAM labs, because some of the apps that work with some of the robotics that we have work very, very well with iPad, and they're also quick to on. I'm not sure how else to describe that, but iPads, you want to do an activity, and you can get on and get into that activity very, very quickly, whereas some other platforms take a bit longer and a few more clicks and stuff. Thank you.
Cindy.
I did. One more question. Are we going to get 4 wins on here for the printer?
Go ahead, Jonathan.
At this time, I have to bring back the same answer, which is we do intend, but as a completely different managed platform, it's not giving us the same data. This data comes to us from all the printers in the Konica Minolta fleet into a dashboard, so it's easy to put into. Not easy. It comes into this report reasonably quickly, whereas the 4 Winds doesn't give us this data, but we are looking to how we can get that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Tasha?
Do you share the printer information with the schools? Yeah, I think it would be really, it's like, I know kids would be interested to see, that kind of thing, the tree consumption and CO2 production, but I just wonder if that's something that we disseminate.
Thank you. My head nod of yes was we share it with the principals. I have not done anything beyond that, but admin do see this report. Yeah.
Trish?
And further to that, I think we would have to be careful sharing that information if we didn't have context to go with it. Like, this division might use this, what do other divisions use? So yes, we're killing trees, but are we killing less than normal or more than normal? So I would want to be very careful unless we have more information for context.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. 7.7, 2022-2023 Superintendent Discretionary Fund. Shauna.
Shauna Warren, Superintendent. So this actually will be the last report for the year for the Superintendent Discretionary Fund, because as trustees will recall that last month you saw this fund is now at zero. There is no more dollars, and that the board was reassured that we do have, if needed, there are some other areas that if we did need some dollars in our classrooms, et cetera, that it is accessible. And so based on all information gathered in all of the previous fund updates, it can be seen that this fund has been an important resource that the division has used over the course of the year to add wherever we've needed additional staffing requirements or resources that has come about after the budget was approved. And so for this school year, the dollar amount that was allocated was 800,000. And each month over the course of the year, this has been reported on how this has been spent. So over the course of the year, it is included additional teacher FTE, QP FTE, and general employment conditions FTE, as well as resources and the salary cost adjustments. And so we also did put in, when we received the supplemental enrollment growth funding, that this budget was topped back up. So however, as of the March 22nd, that this funding amount has been fully utilized, and so it will not be coming forward. I do feel that, hope that the board does feel that this report was valuable to see how these dollars were spent in our schools when there was a need. Again, administration is prepared to respond to questions.
Tasha.
Two-part question. One, in retrospect, do you feel that you're like, given us opportunity to do it again, would you spend it exactly the same way? And secondly, given that we are at zero and there's 2 months left in the year, do you feel that it would be beneficial to consider budgeting more for the discretionary fund in coming years?
Thank you. Great questions. So would I've allocated the resources exactly the same? I think that without context year to year, I think that changes very much. As you know, until we see the whites of the eyes, bums and seats, we don't know the students that we have. And then of course, after September 30th, we always have children arrive. So I think it's very important that we have this amount. However, as we get to a funding model that does not introduce dollars through the year, etc., where we feel that we actually really understand our budget and unpack more, it would be nice to get closer. That doesn't have to necessarily be this amount. I do think 800,000 is not unreasonable, because when you think about it, it's usually staffing costs that we are putting in. I think that this is a valuable amount, and as we've been preparing to bring the budget for next year to the board, we have been reflecting on this. Do we feel that it's the same? This is what we are going to need, or we unpacked kind of how we spent the money this year to say, so do we feel that passing the budget this year, when we finish, do we feel we actually feel our schools are supported? And even if certain changes came about, certain students moved in, would I need this amount in this, would we need this amount allocated in that budget? And so as we bring forward the final budget, it may not look the same amount, because we actually feel that we are starting to have a better understanding of our budget, and as we unpack the leftover of bridge funding, et cetera. So that's a great question. But as to would I do it exactly the same, I think it will depend every year, because it's going to depend on where it's needed.
Yeah, and I was more not asking, would you do it again exactly like this next year, but do you feel satisfied with the way that you did it this year? And then just, if I could have a moment to follow up, Joe.
Yes.
So what I'm hearing you saying is that through more accurate budgeting in all across the division, we may not need to rely on the superintendent discretionary as much, because we now have a better understanding of how we're allocating money in general. Is that what you're kind of getting at?
Shauna.
Thank you. That is a great question. And so what I will just remind the board of is that we were told there were cuts, and COVID hits, and then the bridge funding remains in place. So now we're in a weird place, because it's actually that we have so much in our reserves and it needs to be spent. So what we are really looking at is sustainability, and How do we staff our schools to make sure that they have what they need for our students to be successful? And we just redid our whole RPT, so the resource planning tool for our schools. And so that it's based on formula based, and so that our schools understand, you know, what they will be getting across our schools and how we're allocating that. And I do feel also, as we look at our learning support and revamping that across the division, that we are creating some great structures and to move forward as to what staffing looks like. So I think that we're getting to a place that we won't need as much dollars that we would have to put in place after the fact. However, we do have to leave something there because, again, can't predict the students that we will always have. But I do feel confident that this number, 800,000, might not be needed. It could be a little bit less moving forward.
Janine,
Janine Peckman, Ward 1, as trustee of a school who had a few hotspots this year that this funding went to fill. I really truly appreciate that it's there for you so that those unexpected things that come up can be addressed and appropriately helped with, I guess. And so I am just a fan of this in general. And as somebody who not took advantage, but whose schools did receive some of this year, it was great.
thank you. Trish?
Well, and further to that, as Janine says, it's for unexpected. So even though you plan that you don't need it, that's why it's there. It's because it's what we don't plan for. So be careful before you cut yourself short.
Okay, thank you. Trustee reports. Do you want a 5-minute break? Okay. Okay, chair's report. Went out to, it's been one of those months, but anyways, been out to Danielle Smith's event in Gibbons there with Dale Nally. I went to the Guthrie Military Day in the morning. That was really good. It's really good. Well done. And all the rest is fairly normal. And I just want to talk about our Sturgeon Public Division Trustee Handbook, Guide to Effective Governance in 22-23 that we've been working on and is now in place. Board of Trustees has developed a new trustee handbook that outlines the beliefs, policies, and practices related to board governance. The trustees handbook is a crucial tool to help trustees lead by example in all decisions and activities, ultimately benefiting public education and students at Sturgeon Public Schools. An excellent governance culture is characterized by a board that consistently operates in an environment of trust, respect, and professional demeanor. The board sets a tone for the entire division and how it carries out its governance responsibilities, and the handbook contains clear statements and explanations of the connections between policy and application and the process where the direction of the organization is set that guides the board's decision-making process. The handbook, which is includes expectations and procedures for individual trustees, both as members of the board and as representatives of the community that elected them. Trustees are expected to govern themselves accordingly as per policy 225. The board evaluates itself annually against board effectiveness in meeting policies, norms, principles, protocols, and expectations contained in this handbook to continually improve its governance practices. The Board of Trustees believes that transparency and accountability are essential in ensuring public confidence in its operation and conduct. That is why the handbook has been shared on the division website. So I think that's a key statement that it is on the website. Anybody that would like to go read it, it's there. That's my report. Questions? Okay, we'll go to trustees reports. We'll start with Janine.
Peckman, Ward 1. A few of the highlights of my month. I went to the Redwater Mayor's Breakfast. Our admin teams from both schools were also there, so it was just a great chance to reach out to the community and build some more of those relationships. I went to the
preschool Teal Up, and it was so amazing. I got to like watch the helicopter land, and then they had in the front of the school like tanks that you could climb on, and I did, not very gracefully, and it was scary, but there was some lovely military men to help me up and down, which was great. They had like machine guns and bazookas that were decommissioned that we as adults and children could pick up and hold, and it was so great, and I was honored to attend, and I will be there every year from now on. It was so great. Grip and Grin with the town of Gibbons, but Irene will talk about that. And I was invited as a mom, not trustee, but I popped into Redwater School, had an Indigenous family dinner. So they invited the families through Ogre Park and Redwater School to the Wellness Hub, and they had catering done by an Indigenous catering company, and they had our 2 Indigenous success coaches there to talk to the families and to talk to the kids and to, just kind of make those connections in the community again. And they said that it's something that they're looking at doing more of, maybe once or twice a year, just to make those connections in the community. So I wasn't there for super long. My son had a bannock donut, I think it was. And yeah, it was good. So I was just, those community connections are happening and building in our town. So it was great to see.
Thank you. Any questions? Tasha?
First, I'll apologize that my report is not in the package for your review. I have had quite a month. But I attended Guthrie's parent council. Then I had the privilege of attending the St. Albert Chamber lunch with Trish and Cindy, where we listened to Daniel Smith tell us how wonderful everything is out there. And it was actually a really, really good opportunity to meet some of our community partners. I actually think it would be incredibly advantageous if there's another event similar to that for our communications director to attend with us, as almost all of the media that we work with were there at our table. And Nemeo's parent council has been deferred to next month. I just want to express my gratitude and appreciation to those of you that attended events I couldn't. The Teal Up Day was the same day as the business meeting for PSBC. And yeah, I'm just grateful that I'm surrounded by a team that I feel very supported by.
You, Tasha. Any questions? Irene?
So the only thing that might be slightly different is beginning of the month, we were at ATA negotiations. I too went to the evening with Premier Danielle Smith at the Gibbons Community Cultural Center. Gibbons School Parent Council did not meet in April. They chose to take April off, and they will be meeting again in May. Landing Trails, I've been going to their 40th anniversary committee meeting. They're making fabulous progress. I don't know if I can spill the beans. I'm going to spill the beans. So Landing Trail went through a logo change, and there is a teacher there, and her husband he does that stuff, graphic design stuff. And so it was brought to the committee. Oh my gosh, it is so cute. So it's more of a cartoon horse as opposed to the horse that was looks like the Calgary Stampeders, because some of us vintage alumni that are on this committee, when asked, we'd said that we really wanted to keep the horse because that's lucky. But love that it's even though it looks like because he's cartoon kiddish, like he's just so cute. Even adults love him. And we wanted to keep the school colors the same. So we didn't want them to change the school colors. So June 2nd is the date for it. They're going to do, during the day, they're going to do, or afternoon, they're going to do an assembly with the kids. They're still working out some details on that. And then from 4 to, we figure 9, we're trying to get events planned, such as the fire department coming out and cooking hot dogs and hamburgers, horse carriage ride, hay rides. That's the word I'm looking for. And then we're hoping to be able to have like a family dance from 6 to 9. So and they have the walk of ages they're going to do that shows the different generations from when the school first opened to now. Yeah, so they're really excited. I'm really excited. And I think that will be a wonderful thing. I went to, on April 14th and 15th, I went to the Inclusion Alberta Conference. It was a very insightful conference. I do have the slide deck that I am going to get assistance to load into the PD drive because I'm technically challenged. Yeah. And I need to fix my edited notes because while I was typing, I didn't care about spelling. So some of the highlights from that, that I got from it. So Karen Harvey was the speaker that I went to on the Friday, and then was also in her sessions on the Saturday. She talked about the 3 phases of mental health challenges. 1 is fear, 2 is isolation, and 3 is anxiety and fatigue. And that trauma is the elephant in the room. We acknowledge the mental health issues due to trauma. And sometimes people are misdiagnosed because it's anxiety. And that we need to be aware of exclusion with inclusion. And that relationships and connection, love, and the sense of purpose heals. And that adults can react, adults have trauma. And so it really resonated with me in that, like I feel that there's a lot in our division who suffer from trauma, and you don't have to be a child, and that relationships are key. And so I'm glad that we have, one of our focus being relationships, because with relationships comes support and healing. And that's all I have to say. Any questions?
Thank you. Trish.
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4. I have submitted my trustee report, so that should be on record. Just a couple of things that I took part in were the St. Albert Chamber Luncheon with Danielle Smith. She spoke very well to all the business people that were present. And like Tasha, I didn't realize how wonderfully our province is doing until she told us. So it was interesting that she got, the response was very lukewarm in some areas. So some people were cheering wildly, others were not. So yeah, I'm glad we went to that. It was very informative. Sturgeon Comp High School Council, they had a saffron presentation in September. or is booked for September, but they're using their funds from this year for that. And they also had a white hat video, which they said was very good. And I think they did the white hat for the students and then they're doing one for the adults too, I believe. Their casino is booked for July 30th and July 1st, which is on the long weekend. So they're very sad about that. They tried to get it changed, but they couldn't. So. And the exciting news, Sturgeon Strides, we've heard about May 18th. Mark your calendar. I'll be there, not all day, but so it was, hopefully the weather will be better. Last year, the weather was not cooperative, but it was still fun. And the graduation on June 24th at the convention center. So for the comp. For Sturgeon Heights School Council, they announced that next year they are going to be offering 4 academies for junior high. So not just the Sports and Rec Academy, but a STEAM Academy, a Fine Arts Academy, and an Innovate 360 Academy, which is going to be focused and driven by the interests of the students. So that should be great. They also had an excellent Saffron presentation, which not all the parents could make, and they're already asking for another one. So it's great that these presentations are out there and they're becoming aware of them. And the open house. I attended Sturgeon Heights Open House, and thank you, as other people have alluded to. Our communications department did a great job. We had signs out front that were gathering interest long before the event even happened. We had lots of people. It was a very energetic feeling, a nice vibe, very positive. Lots of new families in the school, so that was great to see. They, if anyone was at the last or Monday nights, there was the musical theater presentation done by our school, and they did that in the library. So that was nice to see. And Mr. Schutz spoke of all the programs and that were going on in the school. So it was a great night. And thanks for everyone for helping out on that. And lastly, the Sturgeon Night of Music and Fine Arts. Mr. Cripps, who I think is the head producer, did a wonderful job with all of our amazing, talented students and staff. And also big shout out to Ms. Warren, who was not only an excellent master of ceremonies, but pretty good on the spoons too. So that was so much fun, really enjoyed it. And that's everything from me.
Any questions? Can I ask what a white hat program is? I don't know.
It's another, I think it's a video version of these other Saffron and Ice programs. So, but it's video. It's not in person, I think.
Okay, thank you. Cindy.
Cindy Briggs, Ward 2. My report has been submitted. I just want to start by thanking all our music and art educators and how fortunate we are to have them in our division to produce such a wonderful night for our parents and our students. There's so much time that goes into these after school. It's not an 8:30 till 3 o'clock day. So there was many hands that were involved in that. And I just want to take the opportunity to thank you all for everything that you did for our division and our students. I was very fortunate to see Danielle Smith on 2 occasions this month, one at the Gibbons Town Hall and then at the Chambers of Commerce. The message was the same, but different. She knows how to work her crowd, who she's speaking to. We're also very fortunate to meet another provincial candidate today, so that'll be interesting to hear. Lillian Schick and Bon Accord are working on an outdoor classroom project, so that's very exciting to see. And I think that's about it.
Any questions? Thank you, Stacy.
Had a very busy month. Some of the highlights as for MPS, they're excited the chickens are hatching. They've been doing candling. There's the Morinville Online came out and kind of participated in some of the candling the eggs and seeing what's going on. And they're starting to hatch this week, which is really exciting. The kids are so pumped to have the chicken coop back up and running. So that's really great. You may remember when they did their presentation earlier this year, they gave us all a book called Hey Warrior about anxiety in the amygdala and how anxiety works and courage. And they used their funding, their school council funding, to have a presentation from the author of that book. And that's tonight. It's going to be a virtual webinar that is accessible for a month. So if you do want to register, you can still register for the event and have a month to watch it. And it's geared towards the parents of children, teens with anxiety. So it might be a good one to take in. I certainly will. So I think that was a really interesting way to use the funds as well, because they didn't want to be sitting on it into next year. So I thought that was creative. Attended the Morinville Chamber Luncheon earlier this month with Dale Nally. It was good. It was, again, kind of a, sunshiny type of speech, which was great. Good turnout. Attended the Four Winds Public School open house, which was great. Our academies are all open. I was really happy to see we're changing the format a bit with the Four Winds Academies so that we have a bit easier time of scheduling and more appropriate with our dance academy, and making sure that the school space is being utilized really well. So I really appreciate the work that the school's admin has done to iron out some of the kinks. We had some growing pains coming out of COVID into a lot at the same time. And I think that the school is really navigating it well. So kudos to them. I attended the Susie Casey presentation the other night. Well received, well attended, really valuable information there. I attended the Inclusion Alberta conference with Irene. Amazing. We kind of split up on the second day, so we took in different sessions. I have tons and tons of notes that I will add to the Google Drive if anybody wants to chat about it. It was a very interesting room of people because it was geared for families and educators, which is why I wanted to attend, so that it's a gap in my knowledge. I don't understand well enough some of our families and what their struggles are. And there is school divisions and school boards are a major barrier. And so to hear that firsthand about how we inadvertently create barriers and how we might be able to deconstruct those and support our families better, I thought was really valuable. And that was one of my biggest takeaways was, okay, yeah, we could be the problem in some cases. And I think that our division is doing a really great job. And that transition to adulthood that's coming up, I'm really excited to share that with all of our families, because that was a huge topic that came up over and over in the sessions that I was in. So I think we are working hard and moving the right direction. So I look forward to continuing that. I've been participating in the Edwin Park committee meetings. So we've spent 4 full days this month now, going through all the 18 nomination forms and interviewing all 18 candidates, and seeing what's going on with our first year teachers is incredible. Across the province, we have some very, very amazing people coming into the school. So that was really inspiring to be part of. I attended the Backpack Full of Cash that was put on by PSBAA. The video, it was really eye-opening. I've seen bits of it. I've seen clips of the movie before, the film, and it was eye-opening. It's a good watch if you ever have opportunity to see it. The citizenship ceremony that was supposed to be tomorrow at Four Winds, I've been working hard, and with the assistance of our bilingual superintendent, she helped me try to put together a bilingual speech for the citizenship ceremony, which is now canceled because of the federal workers' strike. So we will just, wait for hopefully a rebook in the same location So that's a bit disappointing, and I know our students are, I'm really disappointed that our schools weren't able to see that in action because not a lot of people get the opportunity. So I really do hope that it comes back to our students. And Sturgeon Night of Music and Fine Arts was fantastic. Kudos, as everybody else said. I wanted to note that the student teacher, we had a student teacher conducting with such poise and such confidence. She was brilliant, and the students clearly respected her. And I thought that was pretty amazing for a student teacher. And I forgot to add it to my report that I was also in Gibbons for the grip and grin, that I had to Google what that meant. And that's all.
You. Yeah, go ahead, Trish.
And this is just a comment, Stacy, but this is one of the reasons I'm looking forward to the feedback from our parents, because one of the questions we asked them, which relates to your comments, was how can Sturgeon School Division better support you? So that's why I'm looking forward to seeing how they respond to that.
Yeah, just one, I have a question on that citizenship award. With the federal strike, how does that affect it? Maybe I'm just not understanding the award.
It's the citizenship ceremony for immigration.
Oh.
So anybody becoming a Canadian citizen.
No, I got it now. Okay, thanks. On 5. Okay, guys, we'll take 5 minutes, okay?
We didn't have a chance.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We'll move on here to 8.3 Advocacy Committee.
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. Advocacy Committee has nothing to report. We are working on planning out our next Student Advisory Committee timing, so I look forward to that.
Thank you. Any questions? Audit, Finance, and Human Resources Committee.
We have not met and I believe we are doing some budget planning. So I'm not sure if we have another meeting planned or.
Lillian.
Vivian, yes, there will be a planned meeting as around the time of the committee of the whole in May.
Any questions? Building Maintenance Committee.
Building and Maintenance Committee met on March 22nd. And a summary of the following meeting, the following Camilla school updates were discussed. Update on solutions regarding the drainage issues that is happening at Camilla. Plan number 3 was submitted to Sturgeon County and the division is waiting on feedback from the county. The site is being monitored for safety. The gym floor deficiency, which I'm not sure if everybody knows, that the lines were repainted, but the old lines were not completely erased, so they're still visible. So it's a little confusing. A detailed list of the projects was also provided by Facility, Denny Henderson, pertaining to the interim spring break projects. The maintenance of older structures is also being prioritized based on urgency and conditions. The shop as asbestos abatement is done and the interior reconfiguration continues. There was a discussion around school roof deficiencies at Ochre Park and other school roofs, and all work is underway. And we have a meeting today to discuss more issues. I'm prepared to respond to any questions.
Thank you. No questions? Policy Committee.
Janine Peckman, Ward 1. So the policy committee met on April 6th. 3 policies are coming forward today and one is coming back to policy committee on May 3rd for further review. So you will see our policies in about 7 minutes.
Any questions? Thank you. Transportation Committee met on March 22nd. We looked at the 2022-23 budget review and projections, looked at training costs. Bus driver appreciation lunch on May 3rd. The event has been finalized and the invites have been sent out. That day is Bus Driver Appreciation Day, Canada-wide, I believe. We briefly discussed the budget for 2023-24 and an updated financial viability and needs assessment review of new transportation is ongoing. The division will implement a 1 and 2 kilometer funding rules for the 23-24 budget. And the fuel price contingency will continue during the 23-24 school year. And the contractor rate does not require adjustment as the market price is built into the new model for contractor payment. We have 2 new bus routes have been added, one in Sturgeon Heights and one in Gibbons Landing Trail. The division is currently investigating the advantages, disadvantages of using new system of bus pass scanning and tracking. 2 opportunities are being evaluated, called Tyler Drives and Bus Planner. Communication to families will be provided to support the implementation of new funding model. And Drive-A-V training has had almost 100% participation in the division sponsored PD for contractors and operators. Training session focused mainly on mitigation strategies to address misbehaviors during bus ridership. And that's the report. Any questions? Thank you. Sorry, everybody. Alberta School Board Association representative.
Janine Peckman, Ward 1. the meeting that should have been this Friday has been postponed till May 1st. It's online only, so if anybody wants to attend, and they just sent out the agenda this morning. And Rick Grabenstein is still on the agenda, so we will see. I will forward the agenda out when we're done here. So if anybody wants to attend, it's online. You just register. There's a link on the top of the agenda.
Thank you. Any questions? Public School Board Association of Alberta. Trish.
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4. We just had our PSBC meeting on April 13th and 14th. The PD part of that, we had Clarice Anderson and Sheila Williams from Edmonton Public. They presented things you don't know about the Indian Act, and that was very enlightening and disturbing. And I just want everyone to know I had posted to the Google Drive the highlight, or I think it was a summary of the meeting, but we have also been given access to the slide shows from our presenters. So those are on Google Drive more recently. Another presentation was Brian Callahan with everything you wanted to know about superintendent performance reviews, and mostly talked about relationships. Dr. Sharon Friesen, who's a professor at UFC Workland School of Education, had a great presentation on obtaining and retaining great staff. And I think her presentation is also available. Yes, it is. One of the things that was really eye-opening was a community-based Bachelor of Education program where students stay home in their community and then they go on campus for 2 to 3 weeks in the summer and for an experiential learning component. And then they have many rounds of practicum in their home community. But I didn't even know this thing existed. And it's just one example of many ways that if we can get people in there where they live and work and their families are and keep them in the communities and give them great jobs, we have a good chance of retaining them. And so that's just an example of one of the things that it's something that can help educational assistants get teaching credentials while staying in their communities and that sort of thing. So some really good stuff from that presenter. The dinner, we had a guest speaker of Janet Brown, and she shared some results of a poll that was commissioned by the CBC. So because the taxpayers paid for it, the results are actually public. So I can share the results of that poll, which basically is, it was taken only in the Calgary area because that was their focus. And the results are too close to call. So it's going to depend on voter turnout and voting practices. An example of that was in the last federal election. There was huge voter turnout for federal and very high conservative voting. A very short time later, when the city of Calgary held their election, there was a very small voter turnout and a much less conservative winner for mayor. So just shows how things can swing. I'll give you one of the predictions we heard, but I'm not going to say because a lot of people were giving predictions. That NDP will probably get more than 50% of the popular vote. But as we know, whoever forms government, it's by number of ridings. And the prediction was that UCP will win more than 50% of the ridings. So even if NDP gets more than 50% of the popular vote, chances are they're going to struggle to win enough ridings. So that was it. It was a great presentation. The business meeting, they continue to recruit non-member boards, which is great. More talk about election readiness, which we have all seen. They are going to spend some time at the spring general meeting to go over the ASBA resolutions. So because those of us that will be there won't be at the ASBA, I guess somehow we can give you our input on those things. For the 2024 budget for PSBA, they are asking for a 5% increase. So this would be the first time since 2019 that there has been any increase, and we all know how much costs have gone up and whatnot. What does that translate into dollars? Well, for our division, a 5% increase would total $946, which we would have to decide if we thought that was reasonable or not. And another interesting thing that happened, the government announced the removal of the MELT program, actually right during our meeting. And there was some mixed feelings on that, and you may have seen a media release from PSBA. Basically, their thoughts are, okay, we didn't need the MELT training, but now that that's gone, we're maybe missing something. So they're a little unsure of if that leaves us with enough proper training for the bus drivers. And of course, we had an expert who just happens to own a bus line, and also his bus line does MELT training for the drivers. And his opinion was that MELT, that removal of MELT does leave a bit of a gap in training. So, but is this a conflict of interest given his position? I don't. So, just to let you know that it wasn't all loud cheers when the MELT training went away. So, I need feedback on the budget increase from you folks, if you can think about that a little bit. And another thing that they reminded us that the position PSBA is taking is that we are seeing more and more charter schools, and I don't think we're going to get away with that, but it might be away from that, but it might be wise and in their thoughts if we can encourage the government that if they want to continue to throw taxpayer funding into these charter schools and even private schools, perhaps they should be a part of a public school board and somehow under the public school umbrella. And because there are certain schools that do that, there are religious schools that are under public school umbrellas. So that might be a way of working with the government if we have to on this. So any questions? That was quite a bit. Or anything that Tasha wanted to ask.
Jason.
Sorry, you were speaking about the Bachelor of Education that's in your home communities. What university or what is that through?
I think it's through the Workland in Calgary. Or
Yeah, it is through the University of Calgary Workland Business School, or it came out of the Workland Business School model. And the essential gist of it is grow your own talent. Because not specifically our division, but there are divisions surrounding us that have great difficulty retaining or even entertaining new teachers. They just don't want to be out there. So Workland decided that a model that could be very useful was to actually bring education to the communities. Because generally an EA is a mom, and this is just generally speaking, as a mom with kids, you can't leave your community, you can't leave your kids to go to university at U of A for 4 years. You can't afford it. So these are programs that are sponsored by the division. So the division may pay 75% of the tuition charges, fees. They will also be there to support the development of the teachers through their education programs. And then the subsequent teacher that comes out of that program has a vested interest to stay in their community. You can't just pick your kids up and your family and everybody moves to another part of the province. So, I mean, it was really great. Another thing that they talked about in the retention program or presentation was teacheries. which I had never heard this word before, but apparently it's becoming more and more popular in Alberta to build housing for teachers so that they don't have to, Canmore, for example, you can't afford to live in Canmore, but they're gonna build a teachery on one of their pieces of property to house the teachers coming in so that they don't have to incur those insane costs, because you can't entice teachers to come with bonuses or anything. And so Fort McMurray, a lot of the rural northern places are looking at something very similar.
Thank you. Yeah, there was a lot of discussion on the Edwin part. It was all rural representatives, and some of the discussion about these brand new teachers and how to, some of them had some pretty intense teaching assignments, and there was some discussion about why it was like that and how tough it is. So thank you.
Hey, any other questions? Go ahead.
Liliana Levicon, before we move to the next section, I'd just like to ask permission if we can modify the memo we have in the package on the modular program. The 2 months for Landing Trail were 1982. I just checked with the government asset list. So if I have your permission, the package will be updated after the meeting.
Yes, if it's 82, it's 82.
Thank you.
Okay, new business, 10.1, policy 110, 110. Jonathan?
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. Administration is seeking approval through motion with the amendments here that Policy Committee has put together on Policy 110, welcoming, inclusive, safe, healthy environments. The intent of this, as our discussion would reflect, is to recognize the importance of respect and celebrating the diverse cultures in our school, and collaborating with community and cultural leaders and connecting with those leaders within our education systems. If I may, I'd like to read the one paragraph that's been amended. It is the 3rd paragraph. It states, "The board believes all students and staff deserve opportunities to connect to their culture. Sturgeon Public School Division celebrates the diversity of our students and communities and is committed to collaborating with community and cultural leaders to build and promote cultural connections." Administration is prepared to take questions and is seeking approval through motion.
Any questions? Someone motion this, please. Janine?
Dude, I move that the Board of Trustees approve policy 110, welcoming inclusive, safe, and healthy environments, as presented at the April 26, 2023 public board meeting.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? All in favor? Unanimous. Policy 115. Jonathan?
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. Administration is seeking approval through motion for the policy 115, sexual orientation and gender identities, as presented here in the meeting. After review at Policy Committee, we're not seeking any changes to this policy.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Motion? Go ahead, Irene.
I recommend the motion that the Board of Trustees approve policy 115, sexual orientation and gender identities, as presented at the April 26, 2023 public board meeting.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? Janine?
I don't have a question. It's more just a statement that we look at this policy every year. So that's why it's coming forward with no amendments, but it's just to keep what we believe is very valuable and very sensitive communities in the front of our thoughts. So we just background, we go through this one every year so that we're looking at it and it's coming to the board and to the public so that it's identified and we are looking at it. It's just.
Thank you. Any other questions on the motion? All in favor? Unanimous. Policy 125 advocacy plan. Shauna.
Thank you, Shauna Warren, Superintendent. Again, this is also for board approval, motion required. So policy 125 is policy which outlines the board's vision for advocacy plan. And so this is it has been reviewed, and also it did go to the policy committee on April 6th, and that the committee did recommend that it come to the public board meeting.
Thank you. Any questions? Motion? Stacy?
Move that the Board of Trustees approve policy 125 advocacy plan as presented at the April 26, 2023 public board meeting.
Thank you. Any questions to the motion? All in favor? Unanimous. 28. Policy 430, trustee remuneration and expense reimbursement. Shannon.
Thank you again. This is policy 430, which the board has done extensive work on over the course of the year. And so again, this is for approval, and a motion is required. And so as a reminder that the board as a partner in education has a responsibility to ensure effective stewardship of the board's resources, and that the Board of Trustees ensure transparency to the public for the dollars spent in the school authority. Therefore, policy 430, trustee remuneration and expense reimbursement, underwent a thorough review process at multiple committee of the whole meetings, including February 8th, March 8th, and April 12th. And one significant change made to the policy is the update of Exhibit A, which now provides a clear and concise definition of what is covered under the basic honorarium for trustees and the per diem allowance.
Okay. Any questions? I have a motion. Cindy?
I move that the Board of Trustees approve policy 430, trustee remuneration and expense reimbursement as presented at the April 26th public board meeting.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? All in favor? Unanimous. Any unfinished business? Notices of motion? Any information? Comment question period. Is there an ATA or QP member? Think so. Community member. Chase.
Hello, can you hear me all right?
Chase. Sorry. Yep. Hi, Jace.
Hi, I'm just here to give the youth report for the youth of Sturgeon Public Schools today. Since our last meeting, we had our individual school advisory meetings. It went very well. I had the opportunity to attend with other members of student council, and we met with students from across the school. It went well. It was a great opportunity for older students to have the chance to meet with younger students and collaborate and talk about various topics regarding our schools and divisions as provided for us. And otherwise, I hope administration had the chance to get that feedback, discuss it and look at it a bit. Yeah, it was a wonderful opportunity to work together with other students. As I mentioned last meeting, Redwater and Sturgeon Composite High School bands began working together in preparation for SNOM, which we just had yesterday. In general, feedback, as I mentioned last time, it was a spectacular opportunity. It provided great means for students from across the division to interact with one another, learn and make connections. Furthering what we've talked about in advocacy meetings in the past year, this coincides greatly with the movement to get more school-wide engagement. As students have mentioned time and time again, we have many things in place as far as sports go, such as our all-star teams for junior high. But in regards to high school, there's also been some more pressure, perhaps you could say, to get some more student involvement and engagement with one another. And yeah, as far as this opportunity is concerned, band was an incredible way to do that. Redwater High students have already made many more connections with some Sturgeon Composite High students, and it was a fantastic opportunity to get together and make some music and engage in activity that you share and enjoy doing. which leads me to SNOM, Sturgeon Night of Music, which was yesterday. I saw some familiar faces. It was nice to see some of you there. It was once again a fantastic opportunity for young performers. From what I heard, incredible feedback. Everybody was happy, enjoyed it, both on and off the stage. I know everybody got to see the performance from the seating, but also from the performer side of things. It's a really nice opportunity to get to sit on such a stage and in a professional setting and show off your abilities and your skill and the pieces that you've worked so hard on with your peers to your family members, friends, and others that came to watch. And it's just an awesome opportunity to bring the students and families from across the division together for one night. As administration mentioned, we're looking forward to our future SPS advocacy meetings sometime next month. Perhaps our last for this year, I'm not too sure. Otherwise, we're looking forward to working with administration on that one. So that's all I have for now. I'm open to any questions or comments anybody may have.
Any questions? Go ahead, Stacy.
Just a comment, you guys did amazing on Monday night there. That was, I've never attended a Sturgeon Night of Music before. And that it was phenomenal. And to see the bands working together and all of our schools up there working together and singing together and playing together, it really was a phenomenal night. So kudos to all of the performers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's like I said, an incredible opportunity to get to perform for all of you, and we really appreciate the effort that is put into those things. We understand it takes time and a lot of effort from various groups and people. So yes, we thank you very much for putting that on and ensuring that music across our division is supported and shown off and demonstrated on a night such as that one. So thank you very much.
Anything else? Jace, thank you. Excellent presentation as usual. And we look forward to talking to you the next time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, media. Any media? Think so? Any requests for information? Need a motion to go in camera. Go ahead, Tasha.
I move that we in public and enter in camera session.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you everybody online there.